What do household chores tell us about where society is headed? Chores are the canary in the coal mine of kids' character. Picture this. I'm standing, a parenting and youth development expert, in front of 1,500 adults in an auditorium in the wealthiest school district in California. And I asked them this question: parents, how many of you had chores as kids? And how many of you give your own kids those same kinds of responsibilities, laundry, cooking, cleaning, that are about as frequent and as difficult as the ones you did when you were growing up? You see, there was a big study last fall in the US, and 82% of adults said that they had chores growing up, but only 28% said they had given their own kids chores. So, 1,500 parents in Silicon Valley, and they pretty much all agree, yep, I had chores growing up. Guess how many of them give their own kids chores? 4. When I ask parents why, and I do all over the country, they tell me kids today are too busy. They're working their tails off on classes and teams and clubs and groups, trying to excel at 100 different things. And as adults, we're willing to do whatever we can to help facilitate those goals. We drive them everywhere. Fewer teens are getting their driver's licenses each year. We type their papers, help with research, buy them anything that they or we think might possibly increase their chance at success. We solve every problem. We bulldoze over every obstacle. And kids accept this as the natural order of things. But there's something else happening. As our expectations are rising on their achievements, our expectations are simultaneously dropping on the character of the child in front of us. Adults are willing to tolerate, excuse, even promote behaviors that damage these people that we love. I'm a family doctor, and a few parents of kids in my practice have told me that they not only understand, they pay for their kids' alcohol and drug use to help them manage the stress of their enormous workload. I could tell you stories, but I would lose my job and maybe my license. Why are we willing to ignore the rising rates of plagiarism and cheating? Even university presidents sometimes excuse those actions, citing the tremendous pressure that students are under. Are we as a society allowing students to take the path of least resistance towards success? Yes, we are. But kids deserve more accountability and, frankly, more respect than that. The thing is, teens and young adults today are amazing. This rising generation is the most innovative and collaborative of the modern era, and teens, we need you desperately. We face massive problems: the health gap, the wealth gap, the education gap. We're not solving any of these without your help. Whole groups of people are disenfranchised and harmed. You've proven that you recognize the need for social justice and have the passion and the capability to fight for it. But the solutions to these issues don't depend on great SAT scores. They depend on problem solvers of good character. People who see something wrong and ask, what could I do about that? The question before us today is not, can you fix this? You can. The question is, will you choose to? As a culture, we keep discouraging young people from stepping forward. We say teens are selfish and self-absorbed, especially if you wear a hoodie or speak your mind. We say teens don't know how to talk to people face-to-face in real life, let alone sway their thinking or their behavior. We say you only care about yourself and your friends. I work with teens and college students all over the world, and I have to tell you, none of this is true. If we see teens as selfish, it is simply because we have only given them the opportunity to focus on themselves. Out of the best of intentions, we've stripped them of any agency to try and change the world around them. We're principally afraid that if we let you try to do these things alone, you'll fail. We wrongly perceive that failure to be an obstacle to future success. In truth, there are 3 obstacles to raising people of good character who'll improve the world. The first obstacle is the myth that we believe about achievement. While we firmly believe that a small number of kids are capable of amazing us with their own inner drive, that 1% can make it to the Olympics, get invited to the White House, start a nonprofit at the age of 7, and raise millions of dollars, we equally fervently believe that the vast majority of young people can't be expected to do well on a math test and take out the garbage. So we take out the garbage for them. No big deal. Except, taking out the garbage builds character. Family work proves to kids that they're not above serving the needs of the group, that they're not exempt from helping. We're convincing our kids that their character just isn't quite as important to us as their achievements. I've fallen into this trap myself. One of my 4 sons repeatedly did a devastatingly mediocre job at science fair. We were on him about it. So one year, he really stepped up. He picked a hypothesis with some meat to it, a partner who was willing to work, found 40 test subjects, beating his personal best of 4 from the year previous, and created a great presentation board to explain the whole thing. Science fair day comes. He takes 3rd place and gets an invitation to regionals. Unfortunately, he also joined in when another child who won an award took the winning ribbon off his own board, stuck it on the board of a kid who did a terrible job, took a picture, and they sent it around to the whole class as a mean-spirited joke. When my son got home from science fair, he was genuinely shocked to find himself in trouble. But I did what you said. I worked really hard. I'm going to regionals. Oh, my boy, we had somehow given him the completely mistaken impression that we valued his achievements above being a good person, for which I sincerely apologized, before grounding him for bullying until he made amends. Is this intense focus that we place on kids' achievement helping them? Nope. The opposite is true, actually. New research shows that the effects of stress on kids' bodies even more profound than the effects of stress on adult bodies. Headaches, stomach aches, mood instability, rising blood pressure, dropping immune systems, all these things that happen, stress ravages their bodies. As for their brains, okay, stick with me for a tiny bit of neuroscience. ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and cortisol are stress chemicals. These 2 stress chemicals have been shown to hang on longer in the teen brain and cause more damage. Basically, by helping kids achieve more when they're young, we're allowing them to burn out their bodies and harm their minds. And achievement isn't the only obstacle that we trip on the road to raising people of good character. There's another obstacle: happiness. Between our 2 generations, there's a tacit agreement. Adults will keep all the power, but we will also keep doing everything in our power to make kids happy. We've raised our expectations for kids' happiness to the sky. We don't want you to be hurt, to fail, to suffer, ever. I get it. After all, when my kids are happy, my life is much easier. And I genuinely like my kids a lot of the time. Their happiness, it matters to me. The thing is, their happiness, it's not my responsibility. Their character is my responsibility. You've never met my 7-year-old, but you know how to make him happy: cartoons and a candy bar. But if that's how I raise him, if I meet every problem he has with a "be happy right now" cure, you're not gonna like him. You won't want to be friends with him. You won't want him for a roommate. You won't want him to be your kid's prom date. You won't want him as an employee, no matter how wonderful his resume might look. And with that candy bar, I fall prey to the 3rd obstacle to raising him to be a person of good character. I'm solving a problem for my child that he can learn to solve for himself. When I was a college student, we used to call home once a week, usually on Sundays when the rates were lowest, often from a payphone in the hallway. Now, college students, freshmen through seniors, have on average 13.4 communications with their parents every week, every one of which might be wonderful. There's a dark side to these touch points, however. They rob everybody a little bit. They rob parents of the opportunity to prove to kids that we see them as independent problem solvers, and they rob students of the chance to navigate the wider world without parents' constant feedback. 2% of the time, you have to solve a problem for that young person. 2% of the time, they face a life-threatening issue that overwhelms their internal resources: substance abuse, eating disorders, violence, depression, suicidal thoughts. Jump in front of that young person and protect them with your body, your voice, your action. 98% of the time, they need a compassionate adult to take an interest from a distance without solving anything. 98% of the time, they need us to step back so that they can step up and figure out how to handle it. In that same auditorium in Northern California, at the end of my talk, a woman came up to me and she said, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you, you really improved my memories of my dad tonight." She'd grown up in a rural area with 4 siblings, all very close in age. Her mom, the principal of the high school in town, and her dad, a farmer. "In my very small house," she explained, "if you had a problem, you'd actually go outside, sit on the tractor, and talk to Dad. But no matter what you told him, no matter how upset you were, he'd always say the exact same words. 'Well, that's a pretty fine fix you've gotten yourself into there, kiddo. I'll be interested to see how you get yourself out.'" It was infuriating. But as I was sitting here tonight and listening about stepping back so kids can step up, I started to think, the 5 of us, my siblings and I, we're all employed, sober, in stable relationships. We're pretty happy. Maybe he was on to something. Empathy without intervention. Empathy without intervention. 98% of the time, that's what kids need. We have to shift our focus. Concentrate on character. Accomplishment will follow. Travel back up the funnel from, "So what do you want to do for a living?" to who and how do you want to be? I'm not asking that society lower its expectations for academic achievement. I'm saying we should throw out kids' achievement altogether as a metric. I'm not asking for happiness levels to be increased or decreased. I'm saying we have to stop constantly monitoring kids' happiness. I'm not asking that we let young people try their hand at a little problem solving. I'm saying we should never solve for young people a problem that they are capable of solving for themselves. Adults, let's try this. The next time you're talking to a young person about their future, don't talk about achievement. Don't worry about happiness, and don't fix anything. Ask simply, what problem do you want to solve? And then step back and give them a chance to step up and solve it. And for all you young people who have adults that are pressuring you to achieve, or you're pressuring yourself, shift your focus away from your brag sheet and your resume. Instead, look around the world and find a problem that you want to fix. Get the adults in your life to step back so that you can prove yourself by stepping up. Take out the garbage. You won't regret it.